And we are live. Welcome everyone to the third episode of Card Canucks. I'm your host, Charles Hind, and with me soon will be Joe Anajar. He's a hobby content creator and, a really passionate collector. But before we get into that, I want to thank last week's guest, Bobby Burrell. He's, just a really great guy to have on. He knows everything you need to know about vintage hockey cards and collectibles, and I just really want to thank him for coming on the show. Also, I want to thank everyone for their support. We're closing in on 60 subscribers here, and I really appreciate it, guys. The first two videos have done extremely well, and I think that they went really well. So I just want to thank everyone for their support. And before I bring Joe in here, you can follow us on Facebook at Card Canucks, and then the Facebook group bearing the same name. And then Joe's Instagrams are PuckDaddy93 for his personal, and PD93 for his collection, which I think you should check out. And his YouTube channel too, guys. He posts some really great content on there. So, I'm not talking about the guy. Let's bring him in. Welcome, Joe.
I'm here, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
I mean, it's a really no issue, and I've known you for a bit now, and I've been watching your YouTube videos for a while. So I figured let's get you on, and I think it's gonna be a great show, man.
Absolutely. When you brought this to me, I was super excited, and I really love what you're doing over there, Charles. So yeah, definitely keep that up.
Thank you. I always appreciate it, and then it's people like you why I'm doing this show. It really means a lot. But so first off, I just want to get into it's a question that I ask me and all my viewers. How did you get into the hobby, and what was it like to collect as a kid?
Well, as a kid, I was a big sport guy. I played soccer, I played hockey, I played football. Sports was my life, and my collecting, when I started to collect was roughly when I started playing hockey, and my love for the game took off. And it was funny because when I first got introduced to cards was at hockey tournaments. You know how they have those little booths, and you get all those 100 lineup of kids trying to get cards, and that's what really kind of sparked my interest, my love for the game. Actually seeing a card and with a player in front of you and owning that card had some meaning to me. So it just took off from there. And back you're early 90s, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older than you, not too much older, but yeah, and that's where it all began. As you know, I'm extremely passionate for hockey, and it just continued from that time.
Yeah, and I really like that you started to get your cards from those vending machines at tournaments. You always see them in the rinks, and they're always super old, but
No, that and the guys who will even set up booths at tournaments because they know it's a gold mine, right? Like they would just
fair
stay
enough.
there, and they'd have little singles and all in their, in the protector and whatnot. And yeah, you just go through boxes of cards, and at that time they're a little bit cheaper than they are now. But
Yeah.
I used to have in my room like a little shelf that went all around my room, and you would see
Wow.
cards just all across my room. My room was I loved my room. But
Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome, man. I wish I had that set up, but yeah, and one thing that I think people kind of underestimate is that when you're so young and you get these cards, it's almost like you have a piece of the player themselves, and
exactly.
exactly,
Exactly.
you bring it around to school and show it off to your friends, but during yeah.
Another thing on that point too, right, is you actually just say you have a Brett Hall card. Your tendency to follow that player is 10 times more, right?
Yeah.
Because you have the card and you're like, oh, I'm going to tune into him and follow him a little bit more because I have that card. So that plays into it, and following the players definitely plays a huge role there.
Yeah, for sure, because a lot of the time you'll pull these players out of the pack, and you'll look at it, and then you'll see their stats, and you might not necessarily know the player, but like you figure like, man, like this guy, I mean, if he's getting this many points, then you might as well tune in and watch him. And I mean, surely that's what happened.
That's it. You got it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great marketing tactic. But what would you say is there one standout card that you remember from when you were a kid that you just cherished?
Well, yeah, and I talked about this in one of my previous videos on YouTube, one of my '90s videos.
Okay.
Back when I was growing up, we had the chase card was this one,
Oh yeah, the Lindros.
the Lindros. Obviously, back then we didn't have any grading, right? It was
Yeah.
raw. But yeah, now we're blessed with grading and people, grading our cards, so that's a plus. But yeah, this was the chase card for a lot of guys growing up in the '90s, probably within my age group, and that was my favorite card. He came out of junior, he dominated junior, he absolutely dominated junior, and then
Yeah.
he came to the NHL and he did the same. He replicated that, and the Big E, a lot of people, you know, didn't know how to handle him, right? So,
Yeah.
so that type of player who had such a force in the NHL, that was my chase card for sure growing up.
I mean, yeah, for sure, and it was really easy to market him too, because that was, well, maybe not the first time, but that was like one of the very first times we saw someone come that like dominant out of junior, and then
Unbelievable.
and people forget too, he was a physical guy, like he was like a power forward, he was a
You're
big dude.
and you're talking a guy who's 6'4", right? And
Yeah, exactly.
he came into the NHL with this chip on his shoulder. He got drafted by Quebec. He said X-nay on that, and
Yeah,
he said, "I'm going to play for whoever I want," right? Basically, and then Philadelphia made that trade.
yeah,
Absolutely,
exactly.
and I will give you an A+ on your setup, Charles. It's immaculate, buddy. So that's perfect.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm really glad that we got him, and although we couldn't get anything done, in the playoffs with him, he was always a really good player to watch, because as far as just him being physical, I mean, he could score, he could, he was never afraid to dig into corners. He could pass, he could do everything, and
Does
I
does
yeah,
does the word Legion of Doom ring a bell?
Legion of Doom, was that like his nickname?
No, that was the line Philadelphia had, and it was the Big E, Michael Renberg, and John LeClair.
Oh yeah, Leclerc when he
Now
came from the
that
Habs.
line,
Yeah.
unstoppable. You definitely got to go check out some highlights on the Legion of Doom if you have not, guys.
I,
Absolutely
I mean, yeah, Leclerc's another guy who's just criminally underrated, man. He
unbelievable.
was, yeah, he was with the Flyers for a bit, but he started out with the Habs, and he was always kind of Lindros's, not like sidekick, but he was like the Yari Curry to the Gretzky.
That era was so tough to play in.
Oh man,
It's so different from now. I mean, you compare the '90s to even now, and the size of the players, the speed of the players
yeah.
now compared to back then, the conditioning, every era it changes, right? So that's just something that everyone needs to keep into perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and today the NHL is dominated by the small fast guys, but yeah, exactly, but during those late '90s, early 2000s, there were guys. I mean, that was when there was skilled guys in the league, but then there was super tough guys too, and you always
Huge.
had to watch your back when you had guys like Wendell Clark on the ice, Gilmore, Lindros,
Keith
Probert.
Kachuk,
Yeah, Keith Kachuk, he was one of those guys too. So
love that player. He was tough as nails. That guy, I loved him.
yeah, and now his sons are starting to take his role too, and
They're identical.
yeah, it's really incredible, man. So I just want to. So you mentioned that you played sports when you were younger. I actually just found this out, but you actually were pretty successful in high school football. I had no idea.
Yeah, it was one of my most fond memories, actually. It was my rookie year, so I will be honest. I didn't get a lot of playing time, but I was on the team. I made the team. I was
Yeah.
a fast wide receiver, wore number 84 from my boy Randy Moss. Shout out. Yeah, it was an unbelievable experience. I've always been a huge sports guy. I played hockey. I played soccer from a young age, and I just always felt, when you're surrounded by a team, you learn things, right? You
Yeah.
learn from each other, you grow from each other, and you all have each other's back. And I don't know if you knew this about me, but I also coach hockey as well, or I did.
Oh,
COVID
nice.
kind of got in the way of that,
Yeah.
but we can definitely get into that. But yeah, the high school football was a blessing. Won the championship, the New Brunswick Championship provincials, and yeah, we had a good time.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like it. It's almost like the high school dream, if you will. That's I mean, that's pretty crazy, but yeah, and just like the fact that like you did that, and did you collect football cards a bit later on, or?
See, no, and that's the thing. The football passion was never on the scale of what my hockey passion is, and
Oh, okay.
same for any of the other sports, really. Like I love to play baseball, I love to play football. I could play any sport, but it's
Yeah.
different when it comes to hockey for me. It's just hockey is life,
Yeah.
and it's just a passion there, guys.
Yeah.
It's something that's in my veins, so gotta love it.
I mean, yeah, and hockey. I think people underestimate, just how hard hockey is to play. But I mean, it's a
Right,
pretty rewarding when you do, man. It combines elements of like all of the major sports. I think you need to be physical, you need to be shifty, you got to be a good skater. I mean,
you gotta have a good mind,
yeah, exactly. You got to
vision.
really think fast and have proper
Absolutely.
vision. I mean,
That's
it's really crazy, and there's nothing like like watching on TV, like winning like in like overtime, like shootout goal, or
right.
winning the championship or like the Stanley Cup, man. It's
Now,
incredible.
well, and I mean, just sit here, compare sitting here for an hour watching a hockey game or sitting there and watching a soccer game.
Yeah,
Was the
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it's a little bit skewed, right? So yeah, hockey is where it's at.
I mean, yeah, for sure, and I mean that's why we're here, and that's why we collect the hockey cards. It's
Love it.
Yeah, we love it. So also, I found out that you also collected basketball cards for a brief time there. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that we that when it first happened, we all kind of did. But if you could just speak to that, then like what happened there.
I got caught up in hype, and I always tell myself not to do that, right? So I
Yeah,
watched a few, YouTube videos of guys making huge dollars on, Prism rookie cards, and
yeah,
I went out there and I was like, you know what, I'm going to dabble a little bit. And my thought process there was I'm going to buy low basketball PSA cards, rookie cards, John
mm,
Morant's, those type of guys, the new guys coming up, flip them, and then I would reinvest that money back into my hockey. So that was my thought
plan.
process.
Yeah.
But it's funny because out of every card I've ever, well, in let's say since last March that I've ever bought, most of the cards that I've purchased, I've 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 made money on, or the value on those cards have increased. The only cards that I lost out on were my basketball cards.
Yeah.
I lost dollars, and I sold them for less than what I bought them for, and I wasn't too happy about it. So I mean, and that's another thing too. There was no passion. I love the game.
Yeah.
Basketball is a global game, right? But there's a huge thing about this hobby, and one thing I like to say is that you got to collect what you like.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. There's no point in going out there buying cards that number one, you're not educated about. Number two, if you don't like the sport, what's the point,
Yeah.
right? So I learned very quickly that I should stay in my lane, and that's what I did. I went back to home base, and started buying young guns like mad. So that's
Yeah.
kind of I got out my get out quick strategy there.
And I mean, yeah, I actually know a lot of hockey guys that transition for a brief period to basketball. Because, basketball is really fun to watch and everything, but it's just two completely different markets. And, well, while there's a lot of eyes, more eyes on basketball, so are the production numbers. I mean, they're just crazy for base prism rookies. But, you know,
Insane. And I thought I was going to get a piece of that, but you know, obviously not. But we'll forget about that.
yeah, yeah,
We'll forget
exactly.
about that.
So, just to ask, so you collected as a kid, and you're collecting now. You said so. What originally happened where you got out there for a bit?
Okay, so how did I get back into collecting? Is that the question?
Oh, yeah. So like, what made you stop collecting, and why'd you get back into it?
Oh, okay, great. Well, as I mentioned to you, I was pretty heavily collecting from 1990, let's say. So let's say I stopped collecting in 1994, 95.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, I was a big guy on the OPG Premier
Yeah.
1990 set, the 1992 set with Lidstrom, and a lot of the Upper Deck. I was heavy on Upper Deck. That first series that came out, the 1990, 91, and
Yeah.
then the 91, 92. And then I don't know what happened. I can't put my finger on it. It just, the look of the cards just didn't appeal to me. Um, the overproduction, it just seemed, I guess at that point, the love for collecting just kind of dwindled away.
Yeah.
And I started playing, sports, and I got older, got into girls, and you know how that works, right?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so I kind of just, I always had my collection on, in my house or in my room, but I just, I kind of turned my focus onto other things, and you grow, and
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that's kind of how I stopped, and I still to this day love the 1990 OPG Premier set.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the Yager, and I mean that whole draft class was unbelievable, right? Modano, who else you got in there? Ronick, Sundin. That is such an epic Hall of Fame draft class. I mean,
Yeah.
what kid wasn't collecting that at that time, right? So um, yeah, it was. It's kind of, you know what, like, and that's how the hobby is, though, right? Like,
Mm.
you go in, you come out. A lot of collectors do that. They'll stop buying
Yeah.
for like years, and then they'll come back in, when there's this big boom, like what happened with COVID.
Yeah.
You got all these guys my age, dad sitting on the couch going, okay, I got time, I got money, what am I going to do? I'm going to buy some cards.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I
that's what
mean,
happened.
yeah, and that's what a lot of people did during COVID. But I mean, yeah, I mean for a lot of us, different things take over our life when we're younger, and it just the love kind of disappears there, and even when I was in like seventh grade, like I kind of like stopped collecting there for like a year or so, and but then you get the spark back, and you get right back into it, and I mean you're an example of that, but I mean.
Heavily. I mean, I don't know if that was a segue into that question, but I mean, what happened was, I mean, I got back into the hobby. I mentioned earlier, just,
Mhm.
when COVID kind of hit last March, and I watched I was tuning into some YouTube guys, and, kind of, I started looking, and I'm like, wow, there's an actual audience for this hobby still.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was something I didn't know, right? So I was like, okay, I started watching more and more videos, and I started learning more about grading because, I didn't know at that point. And I looked at a slab, and I fell in love. Um, you know what you love your
Mhm.
vintage cards. When you look at a card in a slab, how nice does it look, right?
Yeah.
Um, so basically, I just, you know, I had to get back in, and I went buck wild. I started buying a lot of 80s rookies. I went crazy on, because that's probably one of my favorite, eras, and we'll kind of dive into that. I started buying 80s rookies, so PSA 8s or better.
Yeah.
And that was my strategy. Because in my opinion, a PSA 8 is still a pretty
Yeah.
flawless card. I
Yeah.
don't know what you think, Charles, but I'm on board with that. And
And
go ahead.
yes, just like yeah. So just to talk about what you're saying about the PSA 8, I mean, I think that like a lot of people like don't really put into a perspective like the cards even from the 80s, they're still like 40 years old, and so the fact that they even that they're all not like bent up or thrown out in the garbage, like that's a miracle in itself. And to get one in even like an 8, 9, 10, like even a 7, I mean that's
Right.
still like really good shape. But before we continue, I just want to address some of the comments that have come in.
Oh,
This is
awesome.
from this is from last week's guest, Bobby Burrell. He was
What's
really
up,
awesome to
Bobby?
have on. Yeah, he's a pretty good historian and
You had a
author
great
too.
show. Great show last episode. I tuned in and learned a lot from you, Bobby. Awesome job.
Yeah, I mean that just speaks to how much Bobby knows. But yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for the comment. This is Dan Hind. He says, Joe, do you think it was impossible for Lindros to live up to the hype?
Do I think it was impossible for Lindros to live up to hype? No,
Yeah.
I think he knew who he was, and I think he knew, like as I said, he had a chip come on his shoulder coming into the league. He knew what he was going to do, and he proved that from game one. Right, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that Eric Lindros was going to be an elite star when he hit the ice. There's no doubt.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, like, everyone knew, and I mean, proofs in the pudding. But then you have, like someone like Alexis Lafreniere, who's not a bust, but we just need to give him more time because I don't think. Yeah, I know. I don't think people understand just how hard it is to go from the juniors to the NHL and sit there comfortably. Especially when you have all this pressure on you. And I mean, I think he's on like the third, fourth line now. So yeah.
Well, I mean, people expecting a 19-year-old to come out of junior and be an elite star, shake your head. Give the
Yeah.
kid some time. I think he's not number one for no reason, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's something there that, is just untapped with New York, but I think, if he really puts in work in the off season and he gets more opportunity, I think he's really gonna hit his stride.
I mean, Charles, look at that team. I was talking about it with a buddy of mine the other day. Look at the prospect pool. You
Yeah.
got Shesterkin, you got Kako, you got Lafreniere. Who else do they
Kravtsov.
got? They got Adam Fox. You're
Yeah.
telling me in a couple of years that team's not going to be solid?
Oh, they're gonna be amazing.
Give me a
Exactly. It's
break,
like,
eh? Like, come on, guys.
yeah, exactly.
Lafreniere will be just fine. Just
Yeah,
fine.
I mean, and they've got a couple prospects that people are, kind of poking fun at, and all I have to say to that is, Kako, while he's not putting up the points, if you really watch the game, he's playing a lot better.
Yep.
Lafreniere, I mean, he's actually still playing decent. They got Vitaly Kravtsov, Adam
That was another
Fox.
one. I just bought his young guns. Beauty.
Yeah, I mean that guy's playing overseas, and he put up some pretty solid numbers there, and and they got a Shesterkin who's a young goalie. They got Alex Gorogiev who's another young goalie. I mean they're
Yep.
in like the next 5 years they're really going to be going places, and Panarin too. It's
You can't forget about the bread man.
yeah, exactly. It's just
You
crazy
know?
over there. And here's another comment from Bad Gaming 777 Elvis podcast. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the comment there. Sanderson 2 or a regular watcher of the channel says, Charles, you just made me feel really old. Well, I
Well,
mean, yeah, like 80s cards are 40 years old, but I mean,
age is just a number, my friend. Age is just a number.
exactly, age is just a number at the end of the day, and it's all about here.
You got it.
But yeah, I mean, oh, another question that I think is pretty important. So oh, when did you start your YouTube channel, and why did you start it?
Yeah, I started my YouTube channel, I would say about 10 months ago. The reason why I started my YouTube channel because as you know, I'm heavy on Instagram, right?
Yeah,
And I wanted to, like on Instagram, I'm more of, the write up, the picture, the photo, maybe some videos. But I wanted to reach out to my audience a little bit more. and be more personal and, share what I have. And, I
Yeah.
started watching guys on YouTube, learning about, how to produce a video, how to make, how to present yourself when you're doing these things, and, putting in that work at that time to really, make my craft what I want it to be. Right. So,
Yeah.
it was just an exciting time for me to, share what I have with people, be real. I wasn't expecting to be the next YouTube star, and I still don't. Hey, if it goes that way, then, kudos to me and all my supporters. But yeah, I just thought it was another avenue for me to really put myself out there and, just reach out more to my audience.
And I mean, for sure, it's done a really good job at that. You like to showcase a lot of cards that I mean, there's
Lots of
some
cards,
yeah, I
lots of
mean,
cards.
there's some pretty nice stuff there. But what I like about the channel is that you often show cards not of just the bona fide superstars, but
Oh, you got
of like third liner, fourth liners, and that just goes to show, man. It's all about collecting, and what I like, that's something that you do. You take personal experience from playing high level high school hockey, and then you apply it to the players. Like Galchenyuk. I know you were a guy who
what a
yeah,
pickup.
I know he's
What
crazy.
a buddy. I had to snipe on Gelch. He's found money, right? He's a guy you could put on the first line, second line, third line, and he was basically on his last chance that show, Last
Yeah,
Chance U, where they give him the last opportunity to go pro. This was basically that opportunity, right? And
yeah.
he's really I'm glad I bought that PSA 10, I'll tell you.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a beautiful card, and I know that people early in his career were really high up on him, and I mean, rightfully so. This guy, people forget he's like a 65 point scorer, so I mean, he's a really good player, but I think what happened with him is that he got traded too much, and his confidence kind of went down, and he got put on the fourth line with kind of like not goons, but like tough guys, and it was just hard for him to really find a spot. But I was watching him with the Leafs the other day, and he's looking great out there. I gotta say.
Yeah, he's moving his legs, right? You can tell that, he's giving 100% every shift, and you could tell his timing is still off a little bit. But
Yeah,
when he's playing on a line with Matthews and Marner, you're
yeah,
definitely standing out, right? So, I just, people forget he's a first overall pick, right? Like he's a guy who scored 30 goals with Montreal. Um, and then he got shifted around team to team, like you mentioned, but these teams weren't, solid rosters. So
yeah,
it's like that Taylor Hall effect, right? You're playing in Buffalo, you're playing in Arizona. You got to support a guy like that, right? Just
yeah,
like what the Leafs are doing with the roster now. They're
yeah.
supporting their elite stars with the Simmons, with the Thorntons, with the Spezzas, guys like that are supporting Cass, but they're unbelievable in the locker room. And Hall never had that. And look at him
Yeah.
now. Hall scored the other night, did he not? With
Yeah,
Boston?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Boom.
yeah.
There you
Exactly.
go.
He
First
scored.
game, and he's rejuvenated. It's gonna, that's gonna be a huge addition for the Boston Bruins, for all
And
you
I mean,
Boston Bruins fans.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Boston has a bit of a an aging team there, but Hall brings that nice young presence that he can score. But I just want to say Galchenyuk wasn't the first overall pick. That was McKinnon that year. Galchenyuk was the third pick.
My bad. First round though, right?
Yeah. Oh
First
yeah.
round.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
First
Yeah.
round for sure, 100%. My bad.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. No problem. But yeah. I mean, there's a ton of players in the league like that, and you showcased the Wayne Simmons young gun to me, and I mean that was really cool coming from a Philly fan. I know I miss him over here, especially with the season we're having right now. But
Well, he's a hometown boy, right? He's he's
yeah,
he's from Scarborough here. I'm from Toronto, so he's a type of player that you gotta love, right? He's tough as nails. He'll get in those dirty areas, and the Leafs were after him for quite some time in
oh yeah,
previous years, right? So it was just a matter of time before he came home, and I'm glad Wayne Simmons, even though he's not putting up 30, 25 goals a year, he
yeah.
still plays a huge role on that squad. So you got to love Simmer.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, for like a third, fourth liner, he's got some skill to him too. So I mean, it's always great watching him out there, and But anyways, that's what I like about your channel, and you've got Rasmus Sandin, PSA 10 Young Guns, and I mean, like the average person wouldn't really care about Rasmus Sandin, but.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You got to think about guys that people aren't thinking about, right? Because, like,
Mhm.
for example, this was a great segue into a Pavel Zacha type player, right?
Yeah,
Pavel Zacha. People sleep on Pavel Zacha, but this kid is only 23 years old, right?
and he's pretty
And
good. Yeah.
the fun about me, well, the fun for me is I get to watch this guy grow over, let's say, 6 months, a year, 2 years, maybe. And then you're looking at a card that he's improved. He's now more of a mature player, and his value on his card just developed, improved, right? So it's
Yeah.
a win-win situation. You just got to know how to snipe.
And I mean, yeah, for sure, and that's something that's something that you do for sure. But yeah, I just really appreciate the content, and I want you to really keep it up over there. It's and like and you post a lot too, which is always nice. It's sometimes I'll wake up and there's a new video of yours just straight in my feed.
Well, you can't forget my face or my post, right? If I'm in your face all day long, it's going to be hard to forget about me. And I've learned a lot. Like, I'm in sales and marketing, so I have that little
Oh,
bit of an
nice.
advantage on how to put myself out there and utilize social media. But the biggest tip for me is for guys getting into this, whether it be YouTube or Instagram, you got to be consistent, and you got
Mm-hmm.
to stay within your brand. Be who you are.
Yeah,
Don't veer
exactly.
off. Be genuine. Be who you are. I can't stress that enough because it shows through the screen, and people will definitely take to you more if you're who you are, right? So that's how your viewers get to know you, right?
And I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something that is really key, and you know, and like that's what I like about a lot of the hobby guys in YouTube. Like guys like us. We put our opinion out there, and if some people don't like it, then they don't like it. But it's all about being who you are, and that's how you really be yourself online.
Totally. And one thing is you got to be confident enough to not care about the haters. You're going to have
Yeah.
haters. You're going to have people, commenting on your stuff saying it sucks. You're gonna have it. You just got to break that barrier and be like, hey, that doesn't phase me. I'm unfazed by that, and continue your journey, right? Like, you got to do what you do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and I think that that's what something that we're both doing with our channels, which is it's always great. But before we continue, I've actually got some more comments here.
Yes.
So yeah, GMOs. I probably butchered that name, but he said cards in PSA 8 or better is expensive nowadays. If you
Yeah.
hold them, hang on to them for dear life.
I did the total opposite and sold them all.
Yeah, it's
I don't know,
it's
guys. I
yeah,
uh, I I sold the majority of my 80s and 90s rookies. I'm guilty. But I did reinvest that money into, as I mentioned earlier, stuff that I love. My
exactly.
PC with Doug Gilmore, my PC
Yeah.
with Mitch Marner. You can probably watch some of the videos on my playlist dedicated to Mitch Marner, right? So
Hmm.
those are guys I love. I mean, you don't want to have a bunch of cards sitting in a box that you don't care about, right? So
Yeah.
I just changed the focus, and I appreciate it. Might not be as big now, but it means a lot more to me now.
Yeah, it's definitely good quality, and if it means something to you, that's what the hobby's all about, man.
Hundred
That's
percent.
yeah. And Greggy F said, "Good evening, everyone. Joe, you mentioned PSA 8. Was BGS graded cards an option or only targeted PSA? If so, why?"
That's an awesome question. Very good question, by the way. What's his name? Greggy.
Greggy F.
Well, Greggy. Basically, at first, I was strictly PSA. I love the slab. It's simple. It's clean. I just learned over time that they were the top dog, right? And
Mm-hmm.
over time, I would say once I started getting more into modern cards, I started giving BGS 9.5s a chance,
Mm-hmm.
and I've actually veered a lot to now, to the PSA 10s and the BGS 9.5s. That's kind of like what I'm looking at now. But
Yeah, and
I'm more prone to buy a BGS 9.5 modern era young gun now than I was 6 months ago. So you
yeah,
grow in this hobby, guys. You definitely grow.
and and it's really good to hear that from not like someone who's a new, but like started to learn about grading and had their their tastes start to develop, because
Yeah,
one thing that I find was that I don't know why people don't like BGS like a bunch. I get that for vintage, it's a bit of a different conversation, but personally, I think that their holders feel a lot more secure, and
I agree. I mean, we can kind of look at, like, let's just say these two, right? So you got sorry. So I find the BGS is more thick and more sturdy. Like, it has a good feel to it. But when you look at a PSA slab, like, look at that. It
yeah,
just looks clean, just clean, slim, not as heavy. So
yeah,
it's to each his own, right?
yeah.
It's a matter of preference, and there's no wrong answer, really.
Yeah, and I mean, Beckett was actually leading the market for a while during most of the early 2000s, but then PSA kind of took over. And I mean, the thing about PSA is that they're like the one-stop shop. I mean, all of like most of the big cards that are being sold are in PSA slabs, so I think that just really helps their brand, likability, and really speaks to their grading ability.
100%. And I mean, the popularity, and there's no brainer that the value behind a PSA 10 most times would outweigh the BGS 9.5, right? So it's
Yeah,
the value with PSA is there, and people are comfortable with that, right? So that's why you see an influx of guys submitting to PSA over, let's say, BGS or SGC, or even you can barely get into HGA now, right? Like, you
yeah.
got to be a few with those guys, right? So it's a crazy time for grading cards now, guys. It's PSA halting everybody right now. But I will tell you guys something that you probably would never have thought about my collecting. I've never once submitted a card to any grading company.
Really.
Never once.
I mean, I only have like a handful of times too. It's not
I
an
buy
easy process.
it just seems like it's an annoying process, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know, like, I'm a type of guy who likes that instant gratification where,
Yeah,
oh, I got my card graded 24 hours ago and now it's in my hand and I'm a happy camper. But no,
yeah,
you have to wait 10 months, right? And
yeah.
it's hard to gauge what cards to send, what
Mm-hmm.
cards are going to plummet in 10 months. So there's a lot more thinking for some of these guys. They put a lot of thought into what they're sending now, right? Because who's
Yeah.
paying $300 to get into PSA?
I don't know
No,
a lot of people that are. I mean, probably for
I'm
like the big cards they are, but I mean, for us regular guys, it's kind of hard
we're
to
just
justify there.
regular guys.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And here's a comment from Dan. It said, "Joe, were you surprised when the '90s cards gained traction in the market, and we have seen the end of this?"
Was I surprised? No, not at all. I was calling this, whether I said it in my mind or to people in my circle. I always felt like the 90s deserved the respect that it got.
Yeah,
You got, as I mentioned before, that 1990s draft class really kicked off that era with the Mike Modanos, the Ronicks, the Sundins, the Lidstroms, all those players that just came into the NHL at that time. And I mean, it just doesn't make sense how you can forget about that decade of
yeah,
legends. Think about it, guys. How? How are you forgetting about guys that were, they started young in the 80s, but they became legends, in my
yeah,
opinion, in the 90s, right? That decade was unbelievable. I mean, not so unbelievable for my Leafs, still
yeah.
hanging on to that. But guys, the 90s was, how can you forget about them, right? And it's just they're in a class on their own, in my opinion. That those 2 decades, the 80s and 90s, in a league of their own, in my opinion. I
And
might
I
I
mean, yeah,
might ruffle some feathers there, but it's just,
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And a lot of us weren't able to see a lot of those, like 50s and 60s games. So like it's really hard to say, like what is, but definitely the 80s and 90s were, I would say televised the most out of the vintage era. And I mean, we had guys, like Solani, Lidstrom, Medano, Roenick, Belfour, Potvin, a bunch of guys that,
Patrick Waugh,
yeah, Patrick
Mark
Waugh,
Messier. I
Clark,
mean, I can be
Gilmore.
here all day just spitting out names of legends, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you made a good point, Charles. It's something about witnessing these players play,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just it feels different. Like I have full respect for Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey,
Mm-hmm.
but I never witnessed him play the game other than in
Exactly.
highlights, right? So I would definitely buy a Wayne Gretzky over. I know this is a terrible example, but I would take a Gretzky over a Howe rookie card.
Yeah.
If that's a terrible example, guys, I don't know, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I just there's something about witnessing the players go through playoff runs or
Yeah.
go through anguish as a squad. You like I'm a diehard fan. I've been going through pain for a long, long time, right? So
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's to each his own. Everybody's entitled to doing what they want, right? So
And I mean, yeah, for sure. It's yeah. So I mean, watching a player like it gives you a connection to them, and when you have connections to players, that's what makes you go out there and want to get their card. So I mean,
100%. And I want to answer the end part of that question about do
mm,
I think it's the end of the 90s boom? No. I still think you're still going to see those elite guys like the Medanos, like the Jagers increase in value over time. Just remember, Yager's still playing professional hockey. He has
mm-hmm.
not retired yet. So, you don't think there's going to be a documentary on that GOAT?
Oh, there
It's
is.
coming. It's coming, guys. And that will be the explosion of the Yager. But just like the Gretzky, when it sold 1.2, it trickled down, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely going to be another boom or just an increase in his card because he's second all time, guys. Second all time in points. So how are you really saying it's not worth the dollars it's getting at this point in time? I just don't get it. It's silly.
I mean, yeah, and what people would say is that, oh, but there's so many of them, and what I have to say to that is there's not so many of them in a PSA 10 or BGS 9.5. So
Bingo.
yeah,
You hit it
exactly.
right there, Charlie.
Yeah, so there's probably like a lot of raw ones in people's closets, but I
All
don't
over the
know of
place.
too many PSA 10s.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, and that's the thing too, right? A lot of guys during this '90s boom, they sent all these cards to PSA, right?
Mm,
So the reason why I sold my '90s cards now is because I got that premium, right?
mm,
I got that premium now, but when they come back from PSA in 6 to 8 months, there's going to be a flood,
yeah,
and the price will go down, and that's when
yeah,
I snipe again.
yeah, exactly. And then that's when you start buying again.
Right? It's just some guys you got to have somewhat of a strategy in this game, right? Like
Oh God, yeah.
if you're trying to make money doing it anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's always strategy involved, but I actually really like that comment because it is true. I think that and not even just for 90s, but for like the new Prism basketball and stuff like that. So many people are sending into PSA, and I mean that's one reason why they had to shut down. And so when they come back, and we don't really know when. I mean probably 6 to 8 months, could be 12. I mean I don't know, but and then there's going to be a lot of them out on there on the market, and and then we're probably going to see this happen, but then that's when you snipe, and then it's going to go back up. It's going to level itself out, because the one thing I noticed with the hobby, you can have like dips, but it always goes up. Dip,
That's right.
goes up. Dip, but you see how my hand keeps getting higher?
Just
Gets
like a
higher.
stock, right?
Yeah, it gets higher and higher every time it dips. It just goes more and more up. So I mean,
100%.
yeah, and we actually have way more comments here. Thank you guys
Beauty.
for commenting. I always appreciate the questions. But the hobby is meaningful if you buy what you like and sell what you don't. Yeah, that's just, I mean, nailed it right there.
Absolutely, guys. You're saying what I do, guys. And sometimes I'll buy cards with the full intent to flip.
Mm,
Well, like I'll look at it for 5 seconds and it's sold 10 seconds later. Like literally, guys. It's just sometimes you just gotta buy at the right times. Like right now, for instance, I kind of went in on young guns of players that are going into the playoffs right now.
yeah.
Like a
Well,
solid guy, like teams like Colorado. I'm picking up Makar. Uh, Guys like who else? Even guys that aren't making it in the playoffs, guys like the Quinn Hughes. Rough
yeah.
situation out there in Vancouver. His young gun decreased in value, so I sniped on that one for I think $75,
That's actually pretty decent right
which
there.
is a very good price on a Quinn Hughes, right? So, um, yeah, it's just you got to know when to snipe and be smart about it. That's all.
Yeah, and it's actually funny that you brought up Kel McCarr because I've got my McCarr collection right beside me right
Woo!
now. Yeah, yeah.
That's
I was
beauty.
really really hoping they go deep in the playoffs there, but
Good call. Good call. And
yeah,
I mean, guys like Rantanen, he's another beauty. Like,
yeah,
how can you not like? And when I looked on eBay and I saw Rantanen's Young Gun Raw for $50, that's a buy all day, guys.
yeah.
I
I
mean, if you
mean,
see a Rantanen for $50, I would snipe on that.
yeah, because everyone knows Colorado's like going crazy right now, so it's just a matter of why not.
It's
And
solid.
GMOs, again, I probably butchered that. Says I've only submitted once to grade 15 cards, so you're one better than me.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of tough sending in, but there's
So
some
no,
local Canadian guys here, but
like group submissions.
yeah, so there's group submissions, but then there's companies like KSA, and this is a Pelle Lindbergh PMG that I have out of 50 graded by him, and everyone can have their opinions on them, but at the end of the day, I buy the card, not the grade.
My first card I bought in March was the first ones were Doug Gilmore KSA 8 and what was the other one? I totally forgot, but yeah, the Doug Gilmore KSA 8. I started buying some KSA 8s and 9s because I saw they were a lot cheaper than the
Mm.
PSAs and the BGSs, and at that time I wasn't as educated. I just
Yeah,
figured it was apples to apples, right? And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
definitely not the case. So you live and you learn.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But you know, uh, everyone learns in the hobby, and yeah. But I still think KSA is like a decent option if you just want to get like your cards like slabbed and like encased.
Yeah, I mean, I would even like to be honest with you, I would prefer mints over.
Yeah,
If you're looking at a slab that looks sleek and looks
mint.
almost like a BGS, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of the KSA slab. I think it looks too flimsy with like the
yeah.
black. It just doesn't feel solid, right? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, and one thing that I like that they do is that black stuff's actually a foam.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and, yeah, it's actually a foam, so that's kind of cool. But I mean, yeah, like MNT is it's actually a really good company, and they actually grade quite tough if you ask me.
That's what I
But
heard.
yeah, exactly. But the only problem with them, it's gonna be pretty hard for them going forward to get a lot of that market share, just because it's mainly dominated by Beckett and PSA. But I'm I for one am definitely rooting for them.
Well, wouldn't now be the time to really put your best foot forward if you were them,
Exactly.
right? Like PSA is
Exactly.
done for 3 months. They're stalling their production or grading cards until they get their backlog all completed. If I was a grading company, I'd be going, pedal to the metal on trying to capture that market share. And, I feel bad for guys that aren't doing that. So,
Yeah.
For all you guys starting up grading companies, now's the time. Take
Yeah, now's
advantage.
the time to really be pushing for it.
That's right.
Greg EF says very interesting aspect on the Jaeger.
Yeah, and that's what you got to look at big pictures, guys. It's not always about the stats.
Mm-hmm.
It's about who they are in the culture. Who are
Yeah.
they in the game? Are they a lock for the Hall of Fame? Yager, yes, he is. There's
Oh
no.
yeah. Oh
It's he tomorrow. He's a Hall of Famer.
yeah.
So when you got guys like that are solidified Hall of Famers, the guy is 50 years old still playing the game, right? So
Yeah.
it's I mean, he's a legend, and you
For
got to
sure.
look at media that they're going to expose his life and make a documentary about it, and that's when you're going to see another spike. This is just a prediction. I'm not,
Yeah.
uh, I can't predict future. This is just my opinion, I guess. But that's what I think will happen with the Yager, and it will have that trickle down effect. I would love to hear what other people think, but that's what I think.
And yeah, I actually really agree with that. I mean, proofs in the pudding with Michael Jordan and his documentary. I'm forgetting the name of it now.
Last Dance,
Last Dance. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Tiger Woods had a documentary about him too, and his card prices went crazy. Uh,
exactly.
Here's a question from Bobby Burrell. He says, Joe, how do you feel about SGC?
I can't really answer that, Bobby. I've never had much, interactions with SGC. I never submitted a card, as I mentioned earlier, but I do like their slab presentation. I like
Mm-hmm.
how the number is huge on the slab, like the 10. That's appealing to me. But as I've mentioned, I'm a PSA guy, or a BGS guy for sure.
And I mean, yeah, I kind of feel the same way about that too. I do feel as though SGCs like they're always gonna kind of be like the Marcel Dion of like grading companies, where they're like a really good company, but they just never really hit that next stride to well, like it wasn't even Dion's fault. He never won a championship, but like you get what I mean. Everyone knows Dion, but
I'm a
he's
big
not.
Dion. I'm a big Dion fan, and I'm sure Bobby will appreciate this. I figured I'd bring this out. This is
Oh man,
so Dion banner, and I
that's
don't know if you
awesome.
can see it. Um, it says Marcel Dion on the one Hockey Hall of Fame, 1992, and then 731 goals, six-time 50-goal scorer, and 1,771 points.
That's crazy.
Best player, I think, to never win a cup.
Oh yeah,
Most underrated star in NHL history, bar
yeah,
none.
yeah, exactly. And he was really fast too. I've actually talked to him quite a few times. He's a pretty good guy. But I mean, yeah. So I mean, I mean, to answer the question, I'd say yeah, SGC is definitely just they're always gonna kind of be that it's gonna go PSA, BGS, SGC, and I don't think it's ever really gonna cross over.
It will always be that little brother, or you know what I mean. No,
Yeah,
they might capture some market share at this point in time because
oh
BGS,
yeah,
I think, also increased their pricing as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
Um,
so.
but I think, if I was that type of company like them, I would be, as I mentioned, I'd be going, right to the moon with, new things, right? Because I think the next
Yeah,
thing in grading is all going to be AI, kind of like the HGA grading. What they're doing
yeah,
over there. No one seems to know what the process is over there, but
yeah.
I think AI and computer grading is something that will be coming up very, very soon.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, I do agree with you there. I would just want to know the process and like how they do it. I mean, that's something that we don't know because all HGA says is we use automation. Well, what automation? Like for what?
They're
Like
they're
none
very
of
they're
us really
very
know.
vague. They're very vague about it, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
if you're paying for something, you're paying top dollar to for a service. Usually, you know what you're getting, right? So
Yeah.
for them being not as transparent as most companies are, that just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm sure another company will have the right
Mindset.
methods of mindset, excellent, and do it the right way.
And I mean, yeah, for sure. It's definitely not something that I'm opposed to, because I know with PSA, I've seen some tens that are a bit just skeptical. I'm just gonna leave it at skeptical to me.
Yeah, I've seen some sevens that deserve nines.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, and so like, yeah, the human eye is it's definitely something that
You
um
got to you got to remember it's the human aspect, right?
yeah, exactly. It's all about, like conflicting opinions. But if I think we can get computers to be super consistent and super on point, I would definitely not be opposed to seeing that at all.
It would improve turnaround times, that's for sure.
Oh God, yeah, we could just like like you can put it through the machine within 2 days. Boom, it's back out to you. But another question from Greg E. Thank you for tuning in, man. Thanks for asking questions. He said,
Always.
"Hello, Joe. If you do not mind answering, if you have a graded Sakic Topps rookie, what grading company is it, and what would be the grade? Thank you."
I had a Sakic 89 O-Pee-Chee. It was a PSA 8. Um, One of the last 80s cards that I sent off to a new home. That one hurt a little bit, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing about this hobby, guys. Everything comes around full circle.
Yeah.
Biggest tip: do not get married to your cards.
Yeah.
Do not, guys. I mean, you can't buy if you're not going to be selling, right? If you're in this to make a buck here and there, you gotta, if you're not buying, you can't sell. So you gotta be able to just know what you like, dive into it head first, and really follow these players, and that's how you'll make the most out of your buck, at the end of the day. It's something that has worked for me, and I don't know about you, Charles, how you go about your purchasing of cards, but that's just how I do things. I do a lot of research, and then I dive right in.
And yeah, I pretty much do it the same way. There's a lot of ways to collect and everything in the hobby, but one thing that I find with a lot of people that I talk to, it's always a collector investor hybrid. Because when you're putting a lot of money into this, you become an investor whether you like it or not. So yeah,
By
I mean
default.
definitely. Yeah, I mean that's definitely how I go about things. And then here's another question from Greggy. It says, "I really favor the subgrade format."
Yeah. would
Yeah,
you
and
buy would you rather buy a BGS 9.5 with subgrades or a BGS 9.5 without subgrades?
yeah,
It's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. I don't know. I think it looks great with this. I agree with him. The subgrades are cool
yeah,
because that's when you get into values, because there's a 9.5, 9.5, 9.5, and then a 9. So
yeah,
like a 9 can get the centering sometimes, or the edges can get the 9, and the value on that card will be different.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's strange how people do that. I don't know. A 9.5 is a 9.5 to me.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it's with the grading, like it's all subjective, and yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same mindset that if we just had a really clear 9, a really clear 9.5, and a really clear 10, that would just save all the confusion. But one thing I do like about subgrades is that they show you why they graded a card like a certain way, which is something that I really wish PSA did. Especially when you're paying, $300 a card. I think at least they deserve to tell you like if something, like why they graded it the way that they did, if it comes back lower or higher than you thought.
I agree. I agree with that.
And then GMO says Dion has scary stats.
Crazy, crazy stats.
And I mean, yeah, and there's like a ton of players that I can name that they have really good stats, but no one really talks about them. Like one really good example is Gartner. I mean, like people forget that Mike Gartner, way back in like the early days with the Capitals, he was scoring 50, 60 goals.
Unbe-
Bossy, Boss
I'm
is
gonna hit.
another guy.
I'm gonna hit you with one right now.
Hmm?
Dino Cicerelli.
Oh yeah, because that guy, not only could
No
he
one,
score, tough
no
as
one,
nails.
tough as nails. I'm pretty sure. Can you look at his stats? I think he scored 700 goals in his career. Am I wrong there? Is he
I
in?
can
I
I
don't
can look
know.
up. Yeah, I can look up on my second monitor right now.
I'm pretty sure Dino Cicerelli is in that club, or maybe I'm thinking someone else. But you let me know.
608 goals, but that's still a lot. Yeah.
For Dino, right? It's
Yeah, for Dino, it's
no
crazy.
one would ever think Dino Cicerelli scored 608 goals in the NHL. No one,
But he
right? I
did.
don't know. He did.
And
So
he did
underrated,
it.
underrated stars, right?
Yeah, and he did it on very subpar teams too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I can go on for ages about it, and there's even guys that you might not even know about, like a Wilf Payman. Wilf Payman got 50 goals in a season. He got like 90 points on the Kansas City Scouts,
He
and
was
still
the
got
only other. He was the only other guy to wear number 99.
yeah, exactly, and he got 180 penalty minutes that season too. So
What a
it's like,
weird era.
yeah, like a weird era, but. It's just there's so many guys that are underrated not only because of their stats, but if you just watch them, like I don't know if you know who Mike Palmateer is, but
Of course.
yeah, exactly. Like I watched footage of him, and the way he like flopped all over the ice, and the way he saved things was like may not be the most practical. Like
No,
a goalie coach probably won't recommend it to you, but
they
it's
definitely
just
weren't. They definitely weren't elegant the way they moved. I
oh
mean,
no.
a lot of them were stand-up goalies, right? Until the
Hmm.
butterfly came around.
Yeah, and people actually don't know that what is it? Bernie Pront was really the first guy to do butterfly goalies, but Patrick Wall was the guy who really popularized it.
I also heard Glenn Hall was another guy
Yeah.
who
Mm.
was one who tried or started the butterfly. And this is I love this conversation. I talked about it in one of my videos where Glenn Hall might have started the butterfly, but here's a question I'll ask: who did Martin Brodeur study growing up?
Wow.
Okay. So the point there, guys, is that Patrick Waugh made the butterfly style popular
Yeah.
and perfected it is my angle.
Hmm.
So guys below Patrick Waugh studied Patrick Waugh. They didn't study Glenn Hall. So
Hmm.
that's just why I say Patrick Waugh is the best goaltender of all time.
And I mean, yeah, actually, like a really good take on that. And before that, if you weren't like a true stand-up goalie, you were someone like a Lindbergh, because what Lindbergh did, he never flopped around, he never really did any of that, but he was always like calculated. He never made any flashy saves, but like I watch footage of him like all the time, but you know he always made very calculated, very just like solid saves, which is something that you didn't see a lot in that era.
Yeah, he was
But
one guy I never really knew. I did buy a Pelle Lindbergh PSA 5, but I never really knew what he did and, his career there in Philadelphia. So I think he might have inquired about that card at one point.
I
Uh,
think I did. But yeah, I'm always on the hunt for Lindbergh stuff. I've got my stack of his stuff behind me there.
oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, and so I just really want to give you like a really brief explanation of Lindbergh and why I collect him. So Lindbergh, he was like an average goalie for 2 years. He had a bit of a sophomore slump, but in his third year, he came out and what did he go like 30, 12, and 2, and he won the Vezina Trophy, and
Wow.
yeah, he actually carried the Flyers to the Stanley Cup Finals with when
Right.
half of our team was injured, and we beat the Oilers the first game, but then they kind of swept us there. But and then 8 games into the next season, he went 6-2. He was on pace. We were on pace to go to the finals again, and then just like that, he was gone, man. And
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, and
Rest in peace, right?
yeah, rest in peace. it was a really tough loss for the Flyers at the time because our only other goalie was Bob Froze, and not to discredit Bob Froze, he still made it farther than any of us did, but it's
Yeah,
like
good point.
yeah, so I mean that was just a really tough loss, but that's why I collect Lindbergh, and that's why his jersey cards and autographs are so hard to come by. I've only got one jersey card of him.
Absolutely. He's a hard guy to find, that's for sure.
Yeah, also a not the Olympics, but like a World Junior star with Team Sweden. Yeah, that team was stacked. They had like Boreas Saloming. They had a bunch of guys. It was pretty cool. GMOs. Peter Stachny's also underrated. I mean, a lot of people on that Quebec team were underrated, like Michel Goulet, Ron Tugnut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a Ron Tugnut autograph from my buddy the other day on a 1990 score. I thought the auto looks awesome. So
Oh yeah. Oh,
here, I have a Tugnut auto. You want it? I'm like, all right, cool.
yeah. I mean, Tugnut's one of those guys that he was always not on the greatest teams there, but I mean, what did he have? Like an 87 save performance one night or something like that, something crazy like that. And
Insane.
yeah, I mean, yeah, just insane. And Dan also says Glenn Hall also pioneered throwing up between periods. Yeah.
So we'll give Patty Waugh the nod then, right, Dan?
yeah, exactly. And there's a bunch of superstitions in the league. I know that. I think it was Sawchuck or Plant. He always smoked a lot during in between periods too.
Oh yeah,
But
those guys and their superstitions, just weirdos.
I mean, yeah, but whatever works for them works for them.
You got it.
And yeah, so oh, okay. I realized that I have some questions down here that I think that would be good. We kind of like really went off track there, but
It's all right.
so when did the '90s card group start, and why?
Yeah, so I started getting once I got into collecting a little bit heavier. I joined a few Facebook groups, the vintage group that we're all in, a few other groups on Facebook, and I just started looking at the comments and anytime I might get burned for this, but anytime guys would post 90s stuff in a vintage group or any group for that matter, they would be burned for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would, they wouldn't have the best time. They would, most times might even leave that group, right? So
Yeah.
because they're not feeling too hot about how the card was received. So my whole thought process there was just, why don't I just start a group myself and give give people a safe place to share this decade. And I started it back December, what was it, last Christmas time, December 23rd, and we are going on 3,000 members as we speak.
Wow.
So it caught fire. I won't say, I was blown away, right? Like the reception, it just solidified my thought that the 90s deserve the respect they got, right? Like there's people out there that are saying to me on my messages, Joe, this has made me feel like a kid again.
Yeah.
Now I'm collecting with my son because of this group, and that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? It's moments like that where you go, it's a lot bigger than making dollars. It's a lot bigger than, having, a father say to me, he's sitting at his home flipping through cards and having an enjoyable time. That's what it's all about for me.
Oh,
and
for sure.
the love for the hobby is that. And, it's just, so the group kind of took fire, and, I started to really engage the audience there and do little, I started heavyweight Wednesdays, or, I did a giveaway where I gave away, when we hit 2,500 members, and I gave away a PSA, or not a PSA, a GMA. I know you guys have heard GMA or JMA 10, Paul Correa rookie card to a guy in West Virginia. So and that's what I started seeing too. The demographic was, incredible. Like I was getting people join the group from Canada, US, all over the world, right? Like I have guys in there from Sweden. So there's a far
Jeez.
reach there, right? So it just took fire, and I'm glad to have everybody support the group and just have fun and have a safe place to share that decade, because I'm so passionate about those guys. I mean, just a bunch of beauties, right?
I mean, yeah, exactly. And I joined the group pretty early on, and
Very good.
I saw it grow. And I mean, it really is. If any of you guys like '90s hockey, please join the group if you're not in it already. It's quite incredible what Joe and the admins over there have been doing, and I just I mean, it's just an awesome place over there, and I really appreciate you guys doing that.
And Charles, I appreciate that. If you don't mind me giving a quick shout out to my admins that have kind of like helped me get to where it is now, like guys like Chris Crosby, Scott Galbraith, Jason Terrace, Patty, like these guys, they've been huge part of this group and the growth. I mean, I'm talking like it's a million members, but the 25 to 3,000 people that are there mean the world.
Yeah.
It's about appreciation, right? So, I'll give shout out to my admin team. You've done a bang up job.
Yeah, yeah, like they really have. I hardly ever see anything, like a super negative over there,
Well,
like at
nothing,
all, and it's
nothing.
yeah, it's just a
Maybe
really
they're
really
scared of
cool
me.
place. Yeah, maybe, man, maybe.
You never know.
And so here's a comment from Sanderson to Orr. It was 70 saves against Boston, and I was screaming at my TV all night about Tugnut.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Tugnut, he's such a beauty. I mean, his equipment. I mean, how
yeah.
heavy was equipment back then
Oh
with the
man.
pads? And I was thinking like each pad must have been at least 30 pounds each, right? Like
Oh,
during
probably
his like,
something crazy like that. And
how do they move? Like, I just don't get it. That's why they stood up, right?
yeah, I mean, probably because they couldn't get back up after they fell. But yeah, I mean, speaking of equipment, there's a bunch. The '90s for goalies was where like people got really creative with equipment. I don't know if Kevin Weeks, his
Yep.
pads. He had like a panther eyes on his pads and stuff.
Yeah, they started getting creative with the pads and then the helmets too, right? Like those,
Yeah,
just looking at a goalie's helmet, that's what it's all about, right? Like I remember Eddie the Eagles helmet with Chicago.
yeah,
Such a beauty helmet, right? Like who was the other one? Cujo's helmet with the Leafs with the
yeah.
dog. Beauty helmets, and that's why I loved how they got creative back then.
And I mean, like, yeah, for sure. There's like a bunch of them too. There was some random San Jose goalie. He only played like 12 games, but he had like a shark mouth all around his helmet.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely. I
yeah,
love that one. That was a beauty.
yeah, exactly. And then even today we see goalies in the NHL that have created helmets. Like Freddy's got the Lego Star Wars characters on his helmet. It's with goalies, it's all about showing personality. And I think people might have done that with their play style, like a Ronnie Hextall, but then other people, their helmet really showed their personality for sure.
Big shout out on Ronnie Hextall. I love that.
Yeah, I
Do
mean, well, hey,
you,
like
do you
Flyers
remember? Do you,
guy.
do you remember the Pod fan Ron Hextall fight?
Yeah.
One of the best goalie fights I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah, that's I mean that just speaks to '90s hockey, am I right? We never see goalies really scrap like that anymore. But that was really something to see for sure.
Who won?
I think Potvin did.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah,
He gave it to him real hard. He gave
yeah.
it to him for sure.
Yeah, I mean Hextall must have pissed him off somehow.
Brought him
But
back to reality.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I mean, like Hextall was one of like the few goalies that I can say, he wasn't just a goalie. I would categorize him as like a player goalie because he, a lot of the time he spent most of his time outside of the goalie crease than he did actually in it.
He had hands, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. What is it? Oh yeah. Another question that I have for you: where did the name PuckDaddy93 come from?
Well, it's funny because my original name on Instagram was El Padrino 416. And this is when I first got into it. And then I figured I'm just so into hockey. I just thought, hey, I'm going to change my name. I'm going to call myself Puck Daddy. And because my son wears 93 and I'm a huge fan of Doug Gilmour, I added the 93 at the end. So my son wears 93. My son plays AA hockey.
Nice.
Obviously nothing right now, but he loves Mitch Marner and Doug Gilmour. So yeah, that's how that name kind of came about. And after a couple of days of looking at it, I almost erased it and went back to my old name because I was like, I don't know. I was feeling weird about it.
Yeah.
And then you know what? I said, no, it's staying, it's sticking. I'm PuckDaddy93, and that's the rest is
That's just the
history.
way it is. Yeah. That's I'm really glad that your son learned about like a guy like Doug Gilmour because I think that with a lot of the younger kids, like they all kind of know who these players are, and they they hear their name being tossed around, but they don't really know how dominant they were for their era, just because that they haven't seen them play yet, right?
Well, Doug Gilmour, I mean, he's the epitome of a type of player who played bigger than he was, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's one of my things that I say to my son because he's not an overly big kid, like for his
Yeah.
age. So I always told him, I'm like, it's not how big you are, it's how big you play.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's all right here. You go out there, you leave it on the ice, you go home, you relax when you're done. You give it 100, and that's his thought process going into games.
Yeah, that's a really good thought process to have, and I know we see the results that Gilmore had with it, so I'm sure that your son has a really good
I'm teaching him how to
mindset of
Dougie. You
that.
know what I mean? I
Yeah,
gotta teach
yeah,
him.
exactly.
Gotta teach him how to Dougie.
And here's a comment from a Jeremy Lee from Sports Cards Live, my
Hey,
first
Jeremy,
guest. He
what's up,
says,
bud?
yeah, he says, I'm late, but hi Charles and Joe. I mean, yeah, exactly. Hi back to Jeremy. Glad that sorry, I just blanked out for a second.
No,
Glad that you could tune in there.
he kicked off your podcast with an
Yeah.
unbelievable episode, and I love what he's doing over there with Sports Card Live. So big shout out to Jeremy Lee.
Yeah. Shout out Jeremy. He's the guy who really got me all into this because I was on his show I think 3 times I think, and yeah, and so he really inspired me to start doing on my own things. Yeah, thank you for tuning in, Jeremy. It really means a lot.
Absolutely.
And here's a comment from Sanderson to or good choice, Joe, keeping the name. Yeah.
I figured it kind of showed my personality, my love for the game, and it kind of paid tribute to my favorite player and my son's number. So it just kind of all came around full circle with that name, and yeah, it's I love it. It's a beauty.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of the more creative names that I've ever seen, and it's it's really bold. Yeah, I just wanted to ask that because I find that that's actually like a pretty cool name. So okay, so here's another question that I had down. What are you collecting now, and what kind of era is it?
I'm collecting modern era guys, modern era young guns, modern era future watch autos, um, guys like this.
That's a nice 9.5 Barzell.
I picked that up the night he scored his the 5 point night when he
Oh
did
yeah,
the end to end goal. I saw the goal. I looked on eBay. I pressed buy it now, and that was that. Guys, I'm into my Mitch Marners. I got the PSA 9 Mitch Marner and the 2016 exquisite rookie patch Mitch Marner there, guys.
that's
Um,
nice.
I got, Morgan Riley. I picked up a Brock Besser. Who loves Brock Besser? 9.5.
That's nice, man.
So, like, I've been really kind of looking at guys that I think, that are in the top 15 in scoring right now, like the Rantanens, like the Bessers, guys that are going into the playoffs. Some raws, some graded. The graded I most likely will hang on to. Some of the raws I will probably move at the right time. But yeah, I don't know what it was, guys. once I got rid of all my 80s and 90s stuff, it's almost like, with anything, you evolve. And you have different likes because you're more educated about certain things and the hobby. I mean, I've learned so much about this hobby. It's unbelievable. It's you learn something new every day, right? So guys like Galchenyuk, the PSA 10 there,
Man, yeah, that's a nice one.
Gouch. You gotta love Gouch. I mean, I'm not gonna retire on Galchenyuk, but I mean, at the end of the day, I thought it was a great one. And then my guy,
Sandine, the two PSA 10s.
the two PSA 10 Sandines. I want to ask all the viewers a quick question, if I can.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think he's getting in the lineup prior to the playoffs or when playoff time comes? Good question.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good one. Me, personally, I think that the Leafs are probably going to just throw him in there, see what works the best right before the playoffs, and then whether Dermott or him really stand out. We'll see who gets the job there. But here's a comment from Jeremy. Thanks, Joe.
Not a problem, big guy.
And then here's another one. Glad I caught the end, but I'll go back and watch from the start later. Love the story behind PuckDaddy93. Glad you stuck with it, Joe.
Thanks a lot, man.
I mean, yeah, that was. That's a pretty good story there. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, Jeremy. Shout out to Jeremy again.
Shout out to Jeremy.
But I mean, yeah. So just for the sake of a conversation, who do you think is gonna take the cup this year?
I think that's a dumb question asking me. It's the Leafs all day. They're going for it. They put the right pieces in place to complement their stars and protect their stars. They picked up their goal. Foligno. I mean, come on. The full circle, right? Like his dad throwing up the gloves and going insane, and now his son plays for the Leafs. So it's something about coming home, playing for your home team, putting on that Leaf jersey, and playing for something like the Stanley Cup, right? Like I just got chills just thinking about it, right? But you got guys like the Simmons, Thornton, who's never won a cup, and I swear, I don't know about you guys, but do you remember the moment Joe Sakic handed the cup to Bork?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I see that happening this year with Tavares passing the cup to Jumbo. I see it.
That'd be cool, man.
So my prediction is it's going to be a Leaf Colorado final. That's my prediction, guys. Leafs win in 6.
Boom. I mean, that's not completely unreasonable. I mean, I don't really have like a super big opinion on it, but what I want to see is how Campbell handles a loss and how that affects his confidence. That's something that I really want to see going into it, because the thing with Campbell is, I'm all for streaks and everything. And like he broke history. I mean, for those 10 games, he's been like 12. He's been an amazing goalie. But like Carter Hart, when one loss happens, I want to see whether he Carter Hart's or he Patty Waz, where he can come right back in, and have a fresh mind. So that's the only thing that I really want to see.
And Jack just needs to stop being so hard on himself. I mean, dude, you just broke an NHL record. You just set a franchise record. Take it easy, slow it down, relax. They love you there. The city loves you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to do that. You just got to be focus on the task at hand. And I mean, now you got to feel good with Freddie being on the ice in practice the other day or yesterday, and then you got Big Save Dave coming in. This to solidify our goalies. So on any given night, you have a pretty decent chance or a pretty good goaltender in net, right, to give you a chance to win. So I like what they did, and I'm Leafs all day.
I mean, yeah, for sure. My 4 teams, probably, if I had to just pick off the top of my head: Leafs, Winnipeg, Capitals. 5 Capitals, Tampa Bay, and Avalanche.
I think Tampa's going to falter again. I think they're going to get kicked out in the first or second round. I just have a feeling. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's Tampa's year. I think it's Colorado loaded up, getting Devin Dubnyk.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Right, that's a pretty big piece right there, and they're already a solid lineup. And I'm an East Coast boy. I love Nate McKinnon, so
Yeah.
I'd love to see those two rosters go head to head. It'd be cool.
And yeah, for sure. Like, what is it? Colorado. They got a young goalie from Buffalo called Jonas Johansson, and he's been amazing for them so far.
No
And
kidding.
yeah, so speaking to what you do, you might want to pick up one of his young guns because he's like 3-0, and he's doing really well.
Is he from this year or?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, is he? I think he is. I think he
What's
is.
what's the name on him?
Jonas Johansson, but it's with like J's at the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I have to
Yeah.
look into that one.
Yeah, for sure. He's actually been really good. Here's a comment from Al G. Shout out Al. He's a regular listener.
What's up, Alan?
But he said Felina was a great ad for the Leafs. Tavares passing the cup to Joe would be a major historic moment.
Right? Just
That'd be crazy.
incredible moment. Just to see Jumbo's face and the moment. I mean, I live in Toronto, guys. So if that happens and the Leafs win the cup, it's not only going to be Jumbo that's crying, it's going to be me. It's going to
Yeah.
be the whole city. This city will shut down.
Oh yeah. Oh god. Oh yeah.
You think the Raptor parade was big? 1967, guys. You don't think all the energy is just going to explode?
Oh well.
I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just it's really just a test of time. But I mean, yeah, for sure. For all the adversity that that a Thornton's had to go throughout his career. People
He deserves
labeling
it.
him as a bust the first year. He's never been on like a great team really. So I would really like to see him win it this year. And the odds are in his favor this year. If the Leafs are gonna do it, it's gonna be right now.
This is the window. It's now.
Yeah.
And, for guys like Jumbo, for guys like Spezza, I love Jason Spezza this year, guys? Whew.
Yeah.
He ages like fine wine. He just seems to get younger and he snipes just like he did when he was 19. I'm so glad we have Jason Spezza on the team.
Yeah, for sure. The Leafs have a bunch of veteran guys that I think are really gonna help. Like someone like Matthews, Marner, Nylander, because there's a lot of concern about them being a bit. I don't know like what the
It's a
right word is,
balance.
but like soft or something. But what I see from Matthews and Marner and Nylander is they're all starting to develop the mentality of, okay, we need to start digging for pucks. We need to start being a bit more
Oh, I mean,
like
Matthews is been playing unbelievable. His
yeah,
two-way game
exactly.
is outstanding, and Mitch Marner's as well. I mean, both those guys, I think, have done a huge turnaround on the defensive side of their game. Especially Matthews. Matthews
Yeah.
always was decent at retrieving pucks, but I think Marner has made the most improvement when it
Yeah.
comes to his two-way game. And, I think he's even playing a little bit bigger than he is now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's throwing his way and, I love Mitch Marner. He's my guy. I put my money on Mitchie all day.
Yeah, for sure, and and that just speaks to having those veteran presences around, and even guys, like Spezza. But we have another comment from Sanderson Door here. Joe will never win because he wore number 6 in Boston. The number is cursed. The players, the players who have worn it have
Oh,
had bad luck.
here, Boston screwing my chances again, eh? Oh, I'm not even going to address that.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll wait
exactly.
and see. We'll wait and see. Joey will be happy, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, man. I'm sure he will. And here's another comment from Jeremy. I love when Sakic passed the cup to Bork. Pronger passed it to Team, who was my all-time fave. Tavares
Wow.
passing to Jumbo would be pretty special too.
I, I didn't even know that Pronger passed to Timu. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to look at. I, I'm blown away that I don't know that. I'm gonna have to go take a look at that because I love that type of stuff. I love those moments because that's what hockey's all about, the
yeah,
camaraderie, right? Like it's the respect. And that's one thing I find in hockey that you learn even as a kid. You learn about class, you learn about respect. You learn how to carry yourself with a team, and that's why I love hockey. It's not only just a game; it's life lessons, right? And
yeah,
and
for
uh,
sure.
to have Pronger and have the ability to pass it to Timu or sack it to Bork is an incredible moment, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, it's all about those guys that, maybe not like the biggest names, but, those third line, fourth line guys who, like, really, really work hard. When they
Yeah.
get rewarded with the cup, it's just special. When anyone gets rewarded with the cup, it's special. It's really something in sports that, I can't say can't be replicated, but it's just special, guys. It really
We're
is.
biased. We're biased over here, Charles.
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
And
uh,
then Al says, proud member of Joe's Facebook group. Thanks for the invite, Joe. What's your favorite 90s series or set? That's a really good question.
oh, that's I want that guy I think that's my guy with the Calgary Flames. That's his
Yep.
favorite team, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Algie. Yeah, he's a beauty. I love that guy. He has a great collection too.
Mm.
Unbelievable stuff.
But yeah. So he asked, what's your favorite 90s series or set?
Oh, my bad. I apologize.
That's fine.
My favorite set, I would have to go the 1990-91 Upper Deck first edition. Right? Like that's what kind of started the decade off on a hot note. The production, like, because guys were collecting O-Pee-Chee prior to that, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at the 89 or 88, you can even go back O-Pee-Chee card, and then all of a sudden you got this 1990 modernized cool card as a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thing right there.
Yeah, exactly. And, during the 90s, it was all about, tech advancement. How can we take this and make
Yeah.
it better? And, I know that even my dad said when he was collecting then, when Upper Deck came out, they had, the nicest card stock, the nicest photos. They really had everything, man. So, yeah, I'm honestly not surprised there. Jeremy said, Niedermeyer to Pronger to Timu. Timu is my all-time favorite player. He brought so much electricity to Winnipeg in his first couple of years. Yeah, exactly, and that's a pretty nice sally, and made us fans so proud when he broke records. And such a good guy.
Timu's a class act. He's definitely one of my favorite players. That Sully, just
Yeah,
iconic, right? The 76 goal, I think it was as a rook, right?
yeah,
76.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
I mean,
Like, will
it's
that happen
incredible.
again? Will that happen again?
I don't think so personally. Not in this era.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and yeah, Jeremy has a pretty cool like collection of Solani stuff there. He actually has game used gloves from him, so that's
Oh, no
always in his
way.
background. Yeah. Actually pretty
Awesome.
cool. And then Algie says,
There he is.
yeah. He says that he collects a Ginla. So
Nice. You can't go wrong with Iggy.
yeah, he was a pretty big leader there for Calgary for a number of years, and definitely a Hall of Famer. Says Sanderson. We threw a parade for Bork in Boston after he won the cup in Colorado. Hundreds of thousands have showed to cheer him on.
Class. Good stuff.
Ye- Yeah. That's what it's all about, And Bork was with Boston for a very long
20
time
years?
there, and yeah,
What
and
was it?
it's
20 years? 1980 to
yeah,
that was his rookie
1980.
year, right?
Yeah, 80 81. So yeah, like I'm really glad that they did that for him. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Name from Indigenous rookie cards
Hey,
showed
bud.
up. Yeah. Yeah, me and him have had some pretty good talks. So thank you for tuning in, name. But he said, "Hey Charles and Joe, sorry I'm late. No problem, man. No problem."
No time like the present, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then Dreamy says, "Yeah, yeah, total class act to Timu Solani there." And yeah, Dreamy actually has a good story about Timu that I think I'm gonna try to retell, but I can't really.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremy, if I get any of this wrong, I'm sorry. But so at the time Jeremy owned a sports card shop in I think Winnipeg, and he was going there to lock up. or just to go inside, something along those lines. And he saw Solani outside, and apparently he was like, super nice to everyone. And I believe he got a magazine signed by him too that he has framed now.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and they talked for like 20 minutes, half an hour or something. So that must have been like pretty nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I've actually got you know who Bobby Bond is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I actually I always like telling this story. I'm sorry for the viewers who ever heard this before, but when I was 10, sorry, I keep saying I asked him. I said, "What was it like, like scoring the game-winning goal on, we don't know if it was a broken leg, but it was like a broken foot or toe or something, but
Right, right.
I said broken leg, and I forget exactly what he said, but then he gave me a free signed book. Like he just gave it to me for free as like a 10-year-old kid.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
and
sick.
I still have the book with me, and it's something that I'm never getting rid of.
No, you keep that.
Yeah, exactly. And same with Johnny Bauer too. He was just a class act.
Beauty, beauty.
Yeah, yeah. What is it? My dad encountered him at a local Canada Post one time.
Oh no way.
Yeah, yeah,
Funny,
yeah,
it's funny living in Toronto who you can bump into. Like I
yeah.
would go to work and I would bump into Tyson Berry on the way to work every morning, and I'd be like, "Hey, buddy, it's just nice to see you. Go out there and do something big, and then you get traded." You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, exactly. But it like it's true. You never know who you're gonna meet in Toronto, and like a
100%.
lot of the alumni players were just super good guys.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Jeremy corrects me here. He said Timu was test driving a car, and then they parked right in front of my shop to look under the hood, and I was just leaving, and he was there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that must have been a pretty nice surprise, eh?
What a moment that must have been.
Man, that's crazy. He was test driving a car, and they parked right in front of the shop. What are the odds? Like,
Most likely it was probably like a Ferrari too, because
yeah.
I think he likes fast cars, so I could definitely see Timu in a Lambo just rolling up.
Yeah, looking underneath the hood, and then yeah. I mean, like a massive Jets fan is just there waiting for him, and
I love the Jets, man. They're a solid team this year. I love Shifley. I'm a big fan of Shifley.
yeah, like Shifley, Ehlers, Hellbuck, and then they've got some young guys too, like Vinny Hinola and Sami Niku. Bunch of good guys over there.
That's another guy, Ehlers, that I would look at to buy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like Ehlers at the beginning, he was always kind of that $10 young guns that was good, but he wasn't super good. But this year,
Right.
he really broke out, like really,
Uh,
really broke out.
once Lane left, it kind of like opened up that door for
Open up
him,
the
right?
spot for him. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's thank you everyone for your comments. I always appreciate
Much appreciated.
yeah, always appreciate the engagement. That's what I like to focus my show around too. As also having awesome guests on such as Joe and Jeremy and Bobby. It's been a great time so far, and I really can't wait to keep making more, guys. It's really been special.
Absolutely. And I want to say to Charles, I think you're doing an awesome job. Keep that up, keep that momentum, and yeah, just reach for the stars, my man.
I mean, yeah. Thank you for the support.
You got it.
I really truly appreciate it. I know that I sound like a broken record, but just starting it, like expect to be like Jeremy, where he actually today's his 1 year anniversary of Sports Cards Live. So
Oh, no way.
yeah,
Congrats.
so yeah,
Nice.
so
Very nice.
congrats on that, Jeremy, man. It's I hope to go as long as you are, and I'm sure that I will. So.
You will.
Thank you, everyone. It's Sanderson to Or. You're doing a great job. Thank you, guys. Well, I think we're gonna start to like wind down here, and no, we've been almost going for an hour and 40 minutes now, which
Who would have
yeah,
thought, right?
yeah, it seems like 10 minutes, right?
We could be here for another 8 hours if you really want to, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. We can we
I could talk hockey all day, so it's maybe another episode.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I would love to have you on for a part two, man, for sure. So here's some comments coming in. Sanderson to Or. Oh yeah, I've already addressed that. Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. That means a lot.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, Misfire, great show, guys. Thank you, guys. I always appreciate it. Jimmy, great chat tonight. Glad I got in before the bell. Yeah, I mean, we've been going for a while now, so I figured that we should probably go. Just because we've been going for so long, but I'd be really glad to have him on again. Here's
Can
name.
Oh, buddy. No, I'll leave that for TikTok, guys. You can just go over and see me there at PuckDaddy93. All my dances are just incredible. You'll enjoy.
That sounds good, man. That sounds good. Yeah, so just before I go here, I'm gonna shout out the Instagram again and the Facebook group, both under Card Canucks. If you want to check out Joe's Instagram, PuckDaddy93 is his personal. PD93 is where his collection's at. Some nice cards in there, man. And his YouTube is PuckDaddy93 as well, where he makes some pretty good content for the hobby, man.
And yeah, I mean, anyone who comes check me on Instagram, YouTube, I'm very much available. Shoot me questions. If you guys have questions, I'm all about that life. So I'm all about the interaction and meeting new people, just like I met Charles here. So it's a good time. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, like that's what it's all about. It's all about just having fun and just
You
doing what
got
you
it.
love to do for sure. And here's a comment from Alan. Great show. It's always neat to see people we interact with on Facebook and IG. Yeah, man. And when card shows come back, I think that we're gonna be doing we're gonna be doing a lot
I
of
can't
that.
wait. I can't wait for card shows, guys. Vlogging all day. That's what we'll be doing. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. I've already planned this all out. I'm gonna be with you there, man. And
Sounds
then
good,
it's
bro.
a sorry I got here so late, guys. No, and it's a fine name. Just glad that you could show up,
You
man.
showed up. Absolutely. That's what
Yeah,
it's all
yeah,
about.
exactly. So I think I'm gonna end it off here, guys. But thank you everyone for watching so much. Glad that you made it to the end of our broadcast here. But yeah, hope to see you guys soon.
Ciao, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast.
For sure, man. Thank you.